Having set our spreadsheet up to this point, for larger workbooks that have very many spreadsheets, it's useful to put in some sort of navigation to important sheets or all of the sheets, whatever you want to do. But for this one, what we're going to do is set up some navigation buttons on this front basic spreadsheet, so make sure you're in there. That will take us to January, February, March and April, so someone can select any of those instantly from this front dashboard. To do that, we need to add the developer tab to this top toolbar here, and you need to go to File, you need to go to Options, which is here. You can see it highlighted by the cursor. In Options, go to Customize Ribbon, and in Customize Ribbon go here to the Developer tab and select it. Make sure that that's ticked and click OK. You'll now see that Developer has appeared here, and by clicking on it we can see this is all of the macros and adding buttons and various bits and pieces that we'll want to use for this section. We're going to record a macro then that takes us from basic spreadsheets to January. Simply does that. It might be nice in some cases if you needed to select a particular cell. That would be a good cell to select because we can see exactly how much we've earned in January from there, and we can see all of the details. Click away from that so that that G7 is not highlighted. Go back to basic spreadsheets and we're going to record the macro. Now it is absolutely very important that when you're recording a macro you know exactly what you're going to do. Even if you have to write it out step by step for some of the more complicated ones, make sure you know exactly what you're going to do. There's nothing more frustrating than starting to record something, doing it wrong, having to delete it, start all over again. So, select Record Macro. We're going to call this Move Jan, which is exactly what it does. It moves to January, and this will name this macro, so if we need to go through a whole raft of different macros we can see which one is which. So always name it appropriately so you know exactly what it's going to do. Once you click on OK here, then the record macro bit here will change to stop macro and the macro will be recording. So as I click OK, you can see at the top here it now says stop recording. I'm going to go to January and select that particular cell, then stop macro. You do that too. Having done that, go back to basic spreadsheet. We're going to add a button. That button is going to be a form control button, and we're going to put it somewhere about there. Will do the job nicely. Now we're going to assign Move Jan to that button, so click OK, and we are going to change the name to January and click away. Now we should be able to click on that button and it should take us to January, and it should take us to the particular cell in January that we want to look at. So click that button and there you go. We now know it's working and we've tested it. When you come to do spreadsheet testing, that will be an action on your test plan. Let's go back. In the top bar here we have View Macros. If you will select View Macros and make sure Move Jan is highlighted and click on Edit. You can see here the macro. Sub identifies the macro name, so Move Jan, open brackets, close brackets. The little hyphens here are comments, so if you want to make a comment in your macro code you can put a little hyphen there and type it in, and it will be green in VB, so that you can see that that's a comment and it doesn't actually do anything to the code. The real code starts here. Sheets, January, select. So this line obviously is going to select a sheet that is called January, that's the name of that tab, dot select. That's going to select it. That's the bit that moves us to that sheet. Range G7 select, well, this is the bit that is selecting that particular cell and moves the cursor wherever it was in that sheet to G7. So we will always, whenever we use this macro, find that we've moved to G7. Notice also that they are always in speech marks, and you will need to use speech marks whenever you're setting these up and writing your own. Okay, let's just minimize that. Right, let's do the same for the February one then. So we're going to record a macro. We're going to call this move Feb. Remember, when you click OK here, it will instantly start to record. So OK, that's changed to stop recording, so we know it is now recording. Click on the February tab, click on the cell that we want to start at, and stop recording. Go back to Basic Spreadsheets, go to Insert, Button, draw the button in, and try and stick to the grid lines if you can on the spreadsheet, because that just makes it look a little bit tidier. And we're going to use the Move Feb macro for this button. Click OK. We're going to change it to February. Click away, and let's test it. Bing, and there we go. We are in February. We are in the cell that we want to do. Okay, I'm going to do that now for the other two. If you can do it and set up a button for March and a button for April. Okay, those are set up. If at any time you make a mistake, go to your macros, select the macro you've made the mistake on, and you can delete it and start all over again. So at any time you can delete it and start all over again, and we can just briefly look at the edit on them now, and you'll see that we've got Move January, Move February, Move March and Move April, and they all say pretty much the same thing, except that obviously the sheet name, the worksheet name, has changed in each case. The one thing we now need to do, ideally, is if we were in January and we wanted to go back to Basic Spreadsheet, the front sheet, we need a button that will do that. Basic Spreadsheet is a terrible, terrible name. So how about we rename that to Front Sheet, or even better, Dashboard, which is a name used for the sheet that gives you all of your charts and your front end information that you need. That is a brief summary in effect. So if we go to January now, just check it's still working, having changed the name. We will now record a macro, and we will call this Move Front. Okay. we're going to go back to dashboard. Let's position the cursor up in A1 and stop recording. Go back to January, insert a button, and associate move front with that button. And let's just put front sheet on there. Now we want to do that on each of the spreadsheets or each of the worksheets. However, we've now created a macro that takes us back to there. And as it takes us back to the dashboard, we want to do the same thing in February. We don't need to record that macro again. Simply put a button in there, assign move front to it, OK. Set it up so that we can change the name of that. And we're going to call it front sheet again. Do the same in March. Insert a form button, control button. We're going to move to the front sheet. OK. Oops. And finally one for April. Put in the button. Assign move front to it. Click OK. Click in there. Highlight it. And put front sheet in there. OK, just check each one of them on each page works. Again, this is what the sort of thing you're going to have to put in any test plans that you create, but they now all work. So we can go to January, we can go back, we can go to February, we can go back, we can go to March, we can go back, we can go to April, and we can go back. That's very, very simple recording a macro.